Welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to fundamentally shift how you view ADHD. We spend so much time looking at attention deficit hyperactivity disorder through this lens of struggle, frustration, and, well, deficit. But what if that's literally only half the story? Using some incredible insights from ADHD coach and expert Lori DuPar, we're going to uncover the amazing positive attributes of this incredibly unique brain. We are completely reframing the narrative. Let's dive right in with a profound quote from Albert Einstein that perfectly captures the tragedy of misunderstanding how the ADHD mind actually operates. Think about it. If our traditional academic and work environments are the tree, we've been unfairly judging brilliant fish for decades, simply because their brains operate differently than the conventional norm. We traditionally focus so heavily on the negative struggles, right? The missed deadlines, the restlessness, the distractibility. But today, we're asking a question that aims to flip that script entirely. What if the most challenging traits of ADHD are actually hidden superpowers? Like, what happens when we finally stop trying to fix these behaviors and start recognizing them as distinct, powerful assets? The source material we're exploring today highlights an incredible 32 awesome qualities that prove people with ADHD possess unique personal talents that deeply enrich our world. Now, we obviously won't have time to cover all 32 today, but we're going to explore the absolute most fascinating ones to give you a completely new perspective on this brilliant brain. Let's start with our first theme, looking at the great ADHD reframe, where we consciously turn perceived deficits into massive psychological assets. Take the concept of brain surfing. It's this brilliant term that describes the sensation when the ADHD brain rapidly jumps from topic to topic. Now, rather than just calling this a lack of focus, we really should recognize it as a brilliant natural mechanism. The brain is literally working to ensure it is never, ever bored. It self-stimulates to stay optimally occupied during uninteresting situations. That is a highly active, highly capable mind at work. And this is the exact cognitive reframe we're doing today. Traditionally, we throw around negative clinical labels like distracted, inattentive, impulsive, but shift your perspective, and reality actually calls them brain surfing, being highly sensitive, and possessing a fearless willingness to take risks. These aren't just polite euphemisms either. They accurately describe the highly effective mechanisms that allow people with ADHD to absolutely thrive in high-stakes environments, like emergency rooms or firefighting, where quick thinking is just paramount. Let's move right into our next section, Theme 2, and see how this all builds into real-world innovation, problem-solving, and out-of-the-box creativity. To show you true out-of-the-box thinking, you got to hear about this genius strategy an innovative college student used to ensure he never missed a morning class. Standard alarms just did not work for him, so he set his coffee maker to start brewing exactly 5 minutes after his bedside alarm. But here is the genius part. He removed the carafe the night before. So if he didn't physically get out of bed within 5 minutes, hot coffee would spill all over his floor. That is the high-stakes, hyper-innovative solution tailored perfectly to his own behavioral patterns. The crucial point here is that people with ADHD are exceptionally resourceful. For most people, a quiet library is the absolute ideal study zone. But for one particular college student, the library was actually way too quiet, and his dorm room was too distracting. His solution? The laundry room. The background hum of those noisy machines perfectly occupied the part of his brain that craves stimulation, which allowed his core attention to hyperfocus on his homework. It's just a perfect example of using environmental noise as a tool rather than a distraction. And the creativity certainly doesn't stop there. Look at how an incredibly creative ADHD art student completely bypassed a lack of budget for an assignment. The assignment required using 1,000 of something. So she got free buckets of flowers from a local shop, pressed the petals flat in heavy textbooks, and then crafted a resin fabric out of exactly 1,000 flower petals to sculpt a pair of shoes. She didn't just meet the criteria, she absolutely shattered expectations and earned a coveted spot in a local art show. That's what happens when imagination meets tenacity. Now, these everyday hacks and creative workarounds are super cool, but it really makes you wonder, what happens when the ADHD mind stops trying to just survive in a boring environment and instead locks onto a subject it truly, deeply loves? Which brings us to our third theme, exploring the totally counterintuitive phenomenon of hyperfocus and a fascinating evolutionary concept called the hunter. Far from always lacking focus, people with ADHD actually possess a secret weapon, hyperfocus. One young client brilliantly described this as entering a book coma. When he read something he was deeply interested in, he entered a state of focus so intense that all distractions, all surrounding noises, even his mother calling him for dinner, just completely ceased to exist. When the ADHD brain is fully engaged, its capacity for sustained deep concentration is virtually unmatched. And this phenomenon makes total sense when we look at author Tom Hartman's fascinating evolutionary theory. Hartman proposes that people with ADHD are genetically wired with ancient hunter traits. They're naturally designed to constantly scan their environments, remaining hyper-alert for danger or excitement. But today, they're forced to live in a modern farmer society, one that demands long-term planning, sitting still and waiting. So the brain isn't broken at all. It's simply a hunter's brain trying to operate in a farmer's world. Because their brains are wired so differently, their immense intelligence often doesn't show up on standard tests that heavily favor that farmer mindset. Instead, it shines incredibly brightly across Howard Gardner's diverse spectrum of multiple intelligences. We're talking linguistics, spatial awareness, bodily kinesthetic skills, and interpersonal intuition. People with ADHD frequently excel in these diverse areas, possessing innate musical intuition, athletic prowess, and a deep creative processing that a standard multiple-choice test simply cannot measure. Let's roll into our fourth theme and see how this unique wiring builds into the incredible energy, resilience, and charm of the ADHD personality. This rapid-fire brain wiring actually fuels an incredible amount of world-class comedic talent. We're talking about the lightning-fast wit of absolute legends like Jim Carrey and Robin Williams. That spontaneous ability to connect totally unrelated concepts, that brain surfing we talked about earlier, is the exact same neurological mechanism that creates brilliant, lightning-fast comedy. It's like they have this internal motor that just generates unmatched enthusiasm. But it's definitely not just about being the life of the party. The tenacity of this community is unmatched. Consider the journey of a man named Jake. He spent 10 grueling years struggling with undiagnosed ADHD just to earn a 2-year associate's degree. But he did not quit. Once he was diagnosed and finally found his strategies, he finished his bachelor's and a prestigious law degree in just 4 years. Today, he not only practices law, but he sits on the board of directors for the exact same community college he struggled through. I mean, that is the literal definition of profound resilience. Beyond that resilience, people with ADHD often possess an incredible, larger-than-life charm. Lori DuPar shares the story of the late ADHD coach Ken Zaretsky, a man who possessed this genuine, gentle sincerity that just filled any room he walked into. People with ADHD so often have this uncanny ability to make anyone they speak to feel instantly valued, seen, and deeply interesting. It's this natural glow that just draws people in. Okay, let's dive into our final section, embracing your unique brain and how we can pull all these brilliant traits together. The crucial point here is a lot like a human face. Think about it. We all have 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth, right? But the way those features come together makes every single face beautifully distinct. In the exact same way, while the core traits of ADHD are shared across the community, your specific blend of hyperfocus, resilience, charm, and creativity is entirely your own. And if there is one absolute guarantee about this unique brain, it's this: it is never, ever boring. Sure, it can be frustrating sometimes, it can be flighty, but if you were to attend a conference surrounded by the imagination, adventurousness, and high energy of the ADHD community, I promise you, you would leave utterly inspired. It's just a vibrant, incredibly colorful way of experiencing the world.
Which leaves us with a final thought to wrap up this explainer. The traits are there, the unique wiring is a scientific fact, and the potential, it's boundless. So once you understand the strategies that actually work for you, how are you going to choose to view your brilliantly unique brain moving forward? Are you going to continue focusing on negative behaviors, or will you start nurturing an amazing set of lifelong superpowers? The choice and the incredible journey ahead is completely yours.